we took 6 months and renovated a camper, sold both of our vehicles, and sold our house, and headed out west. Once my daughter was born and I started photographing her, then, from there, I was taking photos of family and friends and family. But I do have a vision of the day that I am, taking photos of families and there's mountains in the background, and just how fulfilling that would be for me. My name is Whitney Wells. I am a photographer, and this is The Layered Onion. Well, it is a little bit of like a personal story, but I think it's something that a lot of people maybe could relate to, in the sense that I was really struggling with my mental health. I was working at a job where I had moved up very quickly, and I was pretty young at the time. I think I was 24 or 25. And when I first started working at this company, it was like the first real job that I felt like I wanted to fully commit to and, put my all into this position. It was at a corporate company, and, I didn't really have any idea of what I was going to do with my future, where I was going. And so this was the path that I felt like, this is what I'm going to do. This is where I'm going to go. This is where I'm going to grow. And, unfortunately, because I put all this pressure on myself to grow so quickly, I did end up moving up very quickly at the company, which was really great, for a period of time, until eventually I started having like severe panic attacks. And I was dealing with that every day. And it was so bad to the point where, some days I was really struggling to even drive home. And I did a really good job of hiding it at work. But eventually it just really took a toll on me. And I really felt like I needed to step away from life for a little bit and just really figure out what was going on. And so that was really, for me, part of the inspiration for going and traveling. I had always wanted to travel. It's always been like a big part of who I am. And, it was also, for me at that time, I think, an escape from what was really happening in my life. And so we took 6 months and renovated a camper, sold both of our vehicles, and sold our house, and headed out west. While we were out there, and I was taking pictures, and we were having a lot of fun, just staying in these state campgrounds, and just getting to see so many different things. But what was really interesting was the moment that we left, the panic attacks that I had completely went away. So I don't necessarily know why that was, but I do feel really grateful that I listened to what I needed, and I got so much from that trip, including my daughter. So that was the best gift that I ever could have been given. I was really just figuring out how to use my camera at that time. So I was taking a lot of pictures of what we were seeing and where we were traveling. And that was really fun for me, just to figure out how to use it and get better at using it and play with the settings. And but also to have those photos now to look back on. I think at the time I was pretty critical of myself, as I'm taking these pictures and just starting out using a professional camera. I think I had this expectation of myself that I should be really good right away. And now looking back at those photos, I'm so proud of them. So I think it's really interesting, having a different perspective now than when I was actually doing it. But it was still very fun for me, regardless of, what was going on in my head when I was looking at those photos at the time. So at the time that I had chosen to officially make my career a career, launch the business, even though I had been doing it as a hobby for a few years, at some point, you have to decide, am I going to move forward with this, or am I going to just continue to have it be a hobby? And part of it was being able to, bring in income, and I was bringing in some income. So ultimately that was part of why I said I have to make this a business now, because you do have to establish a business if you're making income from it. But at the same time, for me, it was really just a leap of faith, and I didn't know where it was going to go. And when I did establish it as a business, I was also working as a health coach at the same time, and raising our daughter, who was very young. And so I had taken on a lot all at once. I was also dealing with some really big physical issues from the birth of my daughter. And so that had lasted for about 4 years. So I am somebody who takes on a lot all at once. And I think, again, it was part of me trying to escape what was really going on inside. But at the same time, photography has always been very fulfilling to me since I really started using my camera. So it's been like a full circle in the sense that it's brought me back to myself. I didn't really study landscape photography. That was just the path of least resistance for me when I first bought the camera before we went and traveled. And I did want to photograph what we were seeing. But once my daughter was born and I started photographing her, then, from there, I was taking photos of family and friends and family. And I just allowed that to continue to unfold. So it was really a natural transition for me. But in terms of landscape photography, that is something that I really want to learn more about. And I plan to dive into, at some point in my life. Well, honestly, every family is different. There are some photographers, I think, who go into photo shoots with a specific plan. And for me, it's more so just allowing the kids to lead. If that's what I'm photographing, in terms of the families, like if there are kids involved, I really do my best to allow the kids to lead, because that is what's going to bring the most authentic moments. I've experienced enough photo shoots where parents have, and myself also have, tried to dictate what the moment is going to be. And that really just brings on a lot of stress. And so I just try and, I do guide quite a bit, but I also sit in the background as well and try and photograph the most authentic moments I can. Like that, to me, going into my photo shoots is the number one goal. Well, my ultimate dream has been to live out west in the mountains. That has been my dream for as long as I can remember. The mountains have always called to me, and especially knowing, my daughter was conceived in the mountain area, out west. So it's always meant so much to me. And so when I envision where I would love my business to go, it's being able to photograph families in places that I really love, that mean a lot to me. And also to just continue to get better at my skill set in terms of like the editing process. I know where I want to go with it, and I know what I need to do in order to get there. But I do have a vision of the day that I am, taking photos of families and there's mountains in the background, and just how fulfilling that would be for me to be able to bring together taking photos of families, which for me is very fulfilling, because when I was younger, my family, we didn't spend a lot of time together. And so that's really part of the inspiration as well with family photography, is that it really does fulfill something in me to see these families having these intimate moments together. And then just being able to photograph that in a place that also means so much to me, I think honestly would just be a dream. It was a project that came from Dane by Local. And Megan, who is part of Dane by Local, she connected me with Noah and said, "Hey, I know you mentioned that you want to be part of some photo shoots and doing, helping out the community. Would this be something you would want to do?" And it was the very next day, I think, or very short turnaround time. And so I did have the time available. And I said, absolutely. I want to get out in the community. I want to, use my skill set to make a difference. And that was an opportunity that presented itself that to me, I felt like I was able to offer that, and I wanted to do it. So this is one of the photos I took. I will say that I really love natural light, and I'm always drawn to natural light. I love playing with light, shadows. And so we did this photo shoot at Cadre, and they have these beautiful windows. And so, of course, I was drawn to those. And so in this picture, I put this dish on the table, and these shadows there were just naturally from the windows and the sun shining through. And I just wanted to create some dynamic with that. So
you ever want to do it again?
Yeah, absolutely. I am a huge fan of being able to get creative, and there were a lot of things going through my mind that day with every dish. How can I elevate this? How can we bring in, and more aspects of it and make it look more dynamic? I also really love movement. So I would absolutely learn more about food photography and continue to grow in that for sure. Some of my packages include physical photos that will be sent to the families' homes. And that's really what you're going to see there. But otherwise, people get an album delivered to them with digital files. But I am a big advocate of printing the photos and putting them in your home and being able to actually physically see it, because that's a big part of actually getting your photos taken, is having that reminder every day in your home that, this is what matters most to me.
So let's talk about...
Well, full transparency, they're like the only ones I have printed. Oh. And they're a little bit older. So they're from 2022. And these photos, to me, they actually represent a transition for me in my photography career, because when I took these photos and after I, delivered them, they were photos that I felt really proud of. And I felt like this is work that I really want to share with the world. And not saying that the work that I was doing prior to that wasn't, good enough to do that, but it just felt like these were pieces that I felt really proud of creating, and some of my better pieces at the time. And so then from there, I felt like I really wanted to it just motivated me to continue to get better and keep going. So when I first started my business, it actually used to be Life Wells Spent, because my last name is Wells. And after some time, I realized that people might not get that, especially if you don't know what my last name is. And that name, I wasn't really too pleased with it. And so just to keep things simple, because I really like the phrase life well spent, I just dropped the S. So it's not anything that's like too crazy, in terms of having that name, but I really love the name Life Well Spent Photography. You can find me at www.lifewellspentphotography.com. I also have an Instagram page at Life Well Spent Photography, and you can reach out to me there as well. My name is Whitney Wells. I am a photographer, and this has been The Layered Onion.